The Cosby sex assault retrial continues on Monday with opening statements. And while the charges are the same, there are some new twists this time around.
I still love you, Bill. Look at Bill Cosby. Yeah.
Supporters continuing to show love for the actor who is gearing up for his second trial at the Montgomery County Courthouse. The first trial ended last June in a mistrial. Cosby officially charged with 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault. Now, here's what we know about the jury for this trial. As of this morning, the group includes 7 men and 5 women. 10 are white. 2 are black. Officials say the jury selection was not easy due to the popularity of the case.
There were a lot of very dedicated people that came from all parts of Montgomery County. I think there were around 500 people that came in over several days.
But there might be a shakeup in the courtroom. A motion was filed late Friday for a juror to be removed after another prospective juror reported that man, elected as juror 11, said, quote, "I just think he's guilty, so we can all be done and get out of here." If he is removed, the juror will be replaced by the first alternate, who is an African-American man. Now, during the retrial, the defense will be allowed to reveal the amount of money settled on during a civil lawsuit involving Andrea Constand, a reported $3.5 million. Constand is the woman who initially claimed Cosby sexually assaulted her in her home back in 2004. Also, the defense's key witness, Marguerite Jackson, will be allowed to testify. Now, she's a former Temple University employee who worked with Constand and claims that she bragged that she could make up allegations against a rich celebrity to get money and start a business. 5 additional accusers will be allowed to take the stand. During the retrial, prosecutors are hoping to show a pattern of behavior proving Cosby's alleged actions against Constand were not a mistake. In the first trial, just 1 extra woman was allowed. She will not be among the 5 this time. Here to break it all down, our legal expert, Joseph Marone, and our cultural analyst and president of Black Men at Penn, Chad Lassiter. Chad, let's start with you. In that video, we hear a lot of people screaming and cheering. I've been out at the courthouse every morning when Bill gets out the car. They greet him. Yeah. Some mornings you can tell that it affects his mood. Let's talk about the cultural implications. He was America's favorite father for so long.
America's dad, Fat Albert, Cliff Huxtable, but we also have to recognize that he also has another identity. He's Bill Cosby, and he may in fact be a sexual predator, but we have to hold on to the identity of him being Cliff Huxtable simply because of the cult of the celebrity.
Do you think that affects the trial? A lot of people were saying they thought that affected the first trial.
I think it could play a major role and some bias with regards to separating out who he is as a cultural icon and who he is as an individual human being.
What do you think about the cultural aspect? Sometimes we see people who are older to be a little less helpless. We see him having a handler coming into court every day. A lot of people talking about his vision issues. Do you think that plays a part in how our culture responds to people that are older? This year, he's 80. Last year, he was 79.
Well, certainly. I think he'll get some empathy. He'll get some sympathy. He'll have philosophical pity where people will say, we should have pity on Bill Cosby. But I think aside from all that, we still need to recognize that he took agency away from a lot of these women. And for me, I see it from the lens of an individual who may, in fact, be a sexual predator.
Joseph, I'm going to get to you in a second. Okay. Hold tight. I know you got a lot. Okay. I'm going to ask Chad really quickly these last 2 things. Let's talk about gender and race in this trial. We now know the makeup of the jury. Do you think that plays in his favor or against him, if you could assess that?
It could be both and. I don't know what the entire jury pool may have been. I know my colleague has some feedback on that, but I think it can play a role where it could actually be disadvantageous, or it could be advantageous. But once again, we hold on to these cultural icons because we grow up with them. They're in our televisions, you know, and so they're in our living rooms and they become family. But we also have to separate that out and recognize that Cliff Huxtable is not, in fact, Bill Cosby.
Joseph, your turn, my friend. Yes. So you're saying the trial will not start tomorrow because we have some confusion over juror 11. He was overheard saying something, so now there's a motion to sort of get rid of him and bring our first alternate up.
That is right. And the irony of the whole thing is the woman who was stricken on Wednesday by the state.
Yes.
They exercised one of their preemptory challenges. Immediately, the defense jumped up and objected. They did what's called a Batson challenge. They said that the only reason the preemptive challenge was used was because of race. They went back and forth, and ultimately the woman got struck, and she was off the panel. This is the same woman that overheard juror number 11 say, hey, you know, he's guilty, let's be done with this. She went and called the defense attorneys and basically tipped them off and said, this is what he said. As soon as they found that out, she came and signed an affidavit, and they filed a motion. The judge is going to decide on Monday whether or not juror 11 should stay. He'll colloquy him. He'll ask him questions. He'll think, decide whether or not he can still be impartial. If he thinks so, he'll stay. If not, like you said, the next juror to come in from the alternate jurors is a black juror. So it'll change the makeup.
It will for sure, because we're seeing there's 10 white jurors and there's 2 black ones. And some people, Chad, I can go back to you on this, are saying that the makeup of the jury is not seated in his favor.
Yes.
So a lot of people are saying they would, and seeing that there's 7 men and 5 women, it could play a big part in this.
It could play a big part in this, but we also need to recognize that Bill Cosby transcended the color line. So he wasn't just America's dad for African Americans, he was America's dad. When we saw the Jell-O pudding commercials and we saw his stand-up comedic acts, it was on all sides of the color line. And so it could play a role, or maybe it can work in his favor.
But I think we're getting too much into the race issue. And if you look at it, the defense team this time has really been light-footed about it. They really haven't pushed race. You know why? Because they've come with a whole different defense. They're trying to play the greed, the lying individual, and they got some key rulings to allow them to support that. They're going to allow the settlement to come in. They're going to allow this key witness that overheard her saying, "Hey, I can do the same thing, and I can get money for a business. I can get money for school," and start to show that she had a predisposed plan to make this happen, and that she set her goal out and she got it. She got $3.5 million, and that's what they're looking to touch this jury pool with, not the whole race issue. And you really haven't seen it, because last time they tried to interject race very, very intensely.
Yeah.
You don't see it here.
Right.
And this is really Tom Mesereau's plan, and he's getting it. And I think that's where the case is going.
Do you think you have to be a little careful, though, with the whole Me Too movement and trying to say a woman who's saying she is a victim, now you're saying she's a greedy, money-hungry woman?
But everybody's losing the fact that he also allowed 5 additional witnesses to now come in and testify. He's going to have to overcome woman after woman after woman, along with the victim itself, to tell the similar stories, how he used the same techniques to take advantage of them and engage in non-consensual sex. That being said, that's a hurdle in itself. And I think people are losing sight of that.
All right, we'll see what happens tomorrow. We'll have you guys back next week.
Please do.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.